been asked to share some of the more beautiful moments of my life, and I'm just so grateful to God for the way He's led me in the past and how He's still leading me in the future. I just give all the glory and honor and praise to God. When I was a teenager, I was at trouble teen, but I had enough understanding of God to know that He's going to answer those questions in the right time. I just had to be patient, and He did. So when I went to college, I wanted to work for God in some capacity. So I prayed to Him. I knew I couldn't be a Bible worker because my Bible knowledge wasn't that good. And then He revealed to me in a dream, and He wanted me to go and do drama. And I said, "No, God, I can't go up there. I'm shy. I can't go doing performances in front of people. But I trust you. Let me just go see." So I went and spoke to the drama leader, and I said, could I work in the drama ministry program? Very hesitantly, she says, "You're just the person that we've been praying for. I need a drama leader for the high school children. Would you?" I says, "Okay, I'll do." But knowing that somehow God's going to work out a miracle, and He did work out a miracle because He actually helped me to become more confident, and it was just so wonderful working with children and helping them and encouraging them in their walk and in their faith with God. When I was 23 years old, I really wanted to have a gap year, and I wanted to go work in missions. And God opened up the door for me to go do missionary work in Taiwan. And just before I left, like 3 weeks before I left, I had this dream. It was this dream of these huge, big grave sites, like little hills. And then on top of the mountain, there was this just absolutely massive golden statue just way up there on top of the mountain. And I didn't understand it at the time, but when I got to Taiwan, I realized that God was telling me something. "I'm here with you. This is exactly where I want you to be at this given time." And it was so reassuring to know that God had actually gone ahead of me and shown me, because the Chinese have these ancestral graves, and the more family members, the bigger their little hill with their little shrine, and they're very much into ancestral worship. I was also there to encourage them on what really does happen when you die, so that the seeds were sown. I was based in Changhua, and they had this hill just right next to where I used to go walking exercises every day. And on the very top of the hill was this huge big statue, a golden statue, and next to the golden statue was this big pagoda of all the memory of the deceased. And that year was such a beautiful experience with God in missions that it just solidified my desire, my passion to want to actually do missions for God for as long and as much as possible. I went back and graduated, and then I enjoyed mission work so much that I actually went back to Taiwan and did another year of service. And after that, I wanted to understand more about how to heal the body, so I went and became a student to be a medical missionary worker. And it's there where I met my husband, and we had the same passion. We wanted to both open up a lifestyle wellness center where we could help others to overcome. And so we went back to my parents' farm. As we were setting up our lifestyle center, a very unfortunate thing happened, in that we were rear-ended by another vehicle. And this individual that rear-ended us was actually so high on drugs that he had killed somebody before us. And so he was up for manslaughter. We didn't have insurance. So the lawyer says, "Don't even bother to try and get any money out of this situation. He's going to claim for bankruptcy." So we were in a little bit of a predicament. We needed our car to be replaced, and we were running into financial areas, and we were praying, saying, "God, do you really want this lifestyle institute to be set up?" When we look back, we understand why God closed those doors so dramatically. Was in a few years later, that farm was on a land claim, and that farm the government took over. So all the investments, all the work that we would have put into that farm to be a detox center would have been in vain, because we would not have got the value of the money that we had actually put in to it. So God opened up another door. My husband was frantically looking for all documents that were needed. He was applying to go work in England as a social worker. It was well needed at the time. and he had one more document to get so that we could go over and work in England. Strangely, one night Martin had this dream in that there was this big open Bible in front of him, and he was writing out like handwritten scripts from the Bible, and he was taking these to a very faraway land that he could never identify. It's something he had never seen before. And he woke up that morning, and that when we went to church that morning, there was a guy that was from Korea, and he stood up and says, "We need you in Korea. Come to Korea." And we just both felt that calling to go to Korea, but Martin was just so close to getting his paperwork finished or his ancestral visa that he put the fleece out before God, and he said, "God, whichever door you open up first, we will know that that is the door that we must follow and walk through." And 3 weeks later, we were in Korea, and we had a beautiful time in Korea. Joshua was born in Korea. He was a miracle birth because when he was 3 days old, he died. But that's another story. It's an exciting story of how God miraculously saved my child. But I just wanted to point out that this experience made me cognitively realize the importance of raising up a child. And as much as I didn't want to leave the job that I absolutely loved, I knew that I had to invest fully in my child. And I was just so appreciative of God giving him back to me that I went all hands and all feet into bringing him up to be of praise and glory to God. Something very, very interesting happened when Josh was 2.5 years old. The government of Korea at that time were clamping down on criminal records, and my husband had a criminal record like when he was 16 or 17 years old. He was caught with possession of drugs, and so he had a criminal record and no longer worked in Korea. So we went back to South Africa. There he applied for amnesty, and he was freed of that criminal offense that he had done when he was so young. We didn't know where we should actually go and live. Should we go live with my parents on the farm, or should we go somewhere else? And we prayed about it, and we felt both very strongly impressed to go to Cape Town. Now, we didn't know why. That was the only province that was recruiting for jobs in social work. The other provinces had a financial deficit and they weren't employing any new workers. So we were at the right place. Martin got a job to work in a psychiatric hospital called Stickland in Cape Town. And then we went to camp meeting. And at camp meeting, I was sitting in the tent by myself. Martin was looking after Josh at the time. And there was this call for pastoral workers. And I thought that, well, that's very strange. Why do I feel such a strong passion to want to stand up and be part of the ministerial course? I mean, I've got a 2.5-year-old child that I'm responsible for, but I still felt that burning passion in myself. And I got up and when the meeting was finished, I didn't say anything to Martin. I just kept quiet. I kept it just thinking about it in my heart because I didn't want to impress my husband in any way. I wanted, if any decision that was coming from God, I wanted God to speak to my husband personally. And so the next meeting, the same appeal was made, and Martin was there, and I was looking after Josh. Martin stood up in the appeal to want to be a pastoral worker, and so when she came and spoke to me about it, I have a strong call to work in the pastoral ministry. I said, Martin, God has called us both. He has also called me, but I didn't want to influence you. I wanted this call to come from God. And it was just so beautiful because, God called us as a couple. We were working in Cape Town for a while, and then we were called to go to a little island in the middle of nowhere called St. Helena Island. It's in a little dot in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It takes like 5 days to get there by ship, and there's no other way to get to this island. Like 60% of the islanders are diabetic because the only way they could get fresh food in is through the ship. They do grow a little bit of food on the island, but just not enough for everybody. We were just there at the right time, and just before we went to the island, we went to go and study at Be Free Institute so that we could be well prepared. And God sent us at just the right time where we could just encourage them to live healthy lives and that they could overcome their health issues that they had. They also didn't have a physiotherapist on the island at the time, and so I was able to help them with their problems that they had with their backs and it became one of my full-time work for me there. God has, orchestrated us to be in a set time, in a set place, for a set purpose, and gave us a new calling. And we accepted to go on a call to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe was very much of a faith venture for us, and we were just so privileged to be able to go to and experience that country. And what stood out for me is, despite the adversity and the hardships of the people, they're so giving. They'll take the little of what they did have and say, hey, listen, here. It's just incredible to see how they are a people of prayer, and how beautifully just God rewards them in giving them what they need at just the right time, at just the right place. So it was a great learning curve for both myself and my husband. In 2021, something very tragic happened. It was the worst experience of my life when my husband passed away. But within this tragedy, God showed me something that I would have never ever seen before, in that the more that a person is hurting, the closer God is to you. As tragic as what happened of losing my husband, God just enfolded me with his hands and just said, I've got you. I'm, I'm going through this with you. When my husband passed away, my son was 15 years old, and I had a decision to make. Um, to either leave, but to go back to South Africa. I didn't have family there except extended family, and I just felt very impressed to rather just stay and complete Josh's schooling, because he was 15 and I didn't want to destable him. I wanted him to finish his schooling program, and he had his friends, he had his teachers that he was well acquainted and loved very much, and I didn't want to just take him away from that. And so I went to the principal and I said, hey, listen, I'm struggling. I may have to take Josh out of schooling. And the principal wrote back to me and he said, don't worry, we'll give Josh a full bursary. We see potential in him. It was just what God wanted for at that time. So when Josh finished his schooling, I sent him to his grand and grandpa in the USA, and I was praying to God and I was saying, God, what do you want me to do now? Where do you want me to go? God reveals a little bit and then a little bit more. Life is a journey. It's just so beautiful because within our journey with God, he just makes himself that much more real. And he calls us and he says, I want you to do this next venture, or I want you to go into this path. And so sometimes you wonder, why have I been removed from here? Why do I feel like an alien and I feel like I don't have a place to lay my head and I don't belong anywhere? And I've been praying about this because, what now, Lord? And it's God has been calling and talking to me, and he's saying, David, and I've led you so far in the past and I'm leading you now, and I want you to be able to tell others what God has done in your life, and just to encourage others in their walk with life.